Let's get to Jay in North Carolina real quick before we get an injury report on Deebo Samuel to hear from Shanahan. What up, Jay? Good morning.
Good morning, fellas. How's it going today?
Good, man. Good.
That's what's up. Yeah, I agree with Shasta, Joe. I think we're a little bit more worried about Brock than we need to be. I think it's more got to do with our head coach. I don't know what he's doing, but sometimes he tries to outsmart everything, and he tries to do too much. Like you said, just keep handing that ball off, running over the Trent side. We're going 10, 12 yards. That's just how he did it in Super Bowl 54, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. Don't want to get me started with that, Jay. Real quick, Jay, what is it about Shanahan getting tight in these moments? It's year 7.
That's what it don't seem like he's ready to win the big one. Like I'm happy that we back because, we had years before, 2012 when we had Hardball, we was dead in the water. So I'm happy that we back and we get to play every year, but he just does not seem like the guy that's going to win the big one. I'm hoping that maybe the players can step up and do what they need to do. Oh, and about that defensive line, I think they was a little bit more worried about Jordan taking off on him. That's why they was giving him his room. They didn't want to run up and, try and take him out like that. They wanted to give him a little space and just let him not get too far. I think that's what was going on. I'm hoping that we're going to turn everything around, take care of business Sunday, so that I can call back in on Monday and be like, see, I told you guys.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. The one thing we do know is Jared Goff's going to be in the spot, right, in the pocket. We know he's not going to move around much. And Tampa Bay did get after Jared Goff at times. Now, Detroit, they do get those truck plays offensively. Their run game is vicious. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a problem. But you can get to Jared Goff. This would be a great opportunity for this front four to remind us all of how good they are.
It's interesting. We're like asking kind of certain questions regarding Shanahan. I think Shanahan's a brilliant mind when it comes to football. I think he's an excellent schemer. I think he's a great play caller. I think at times he has shown he can adjust. I don't want to pretend like he hasn't. But like Bonte, when I look at the greatest organizations in the world, whether it's sports or non-sports, pivoting on the fly is extremely important. Adaptation, evolution, extremely important. Amazon is running the world right now. Does anyone remember what Amazon started off as?
No.
Like a book company, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know.
Apple did computers. Now they have this thing called, the Apple phone, and nobody can live without it, for crying out loud, right? There's many, many, many examples. When I look at the Golden State Warriors, what would you say is one of the great wins in their dynastic run?
Boston Game 4, OKC Game 6.
OKC Game 6. Let me stop there. They said, all right, the hell with the ball movement. We're doing the 1-2 pick and roll between Clay and Steph Curry exclusively, basically, in that setting. They did other things as well.
Right.
But they ditched what they were normally accustomed to, and they went straight to that. In the Boston series, Draymond was a huge part of getting to that point.
Right.
But in that second half, him on the bench wasn't the worst thing.
Fourth quarter. Yep.
Right? Now, he ended up coming back in late. But, that's kind of my point here. And I'm going to Shanahan. When I look at the common theme for some of their losses, their inability to make the adjustment timely enough to be able to salvage the game has been one of the frustrations.
Yep.
There has been player lack of execution, which you could be the greatest coach, if you don't have the players running the plays and they're not out there, it does come down to the players. I'm not here to say that it doesn't. But there are times where it feels like we're so married to the Monday through Saturday prep of the game that the game happens on Sunday, and you got to kind of throw some of that stuff away. And he's unwilling to pivot.
Yeah, that's a problem. He's going to have to pivot against Detroit because Detroit will try to take away what you do best. They're really good against the ground. I did not realize this. Yesterday, I corrected myself about that. They're top 3 in the league when it comes to giving up yards on the ground. They're not an easy team to run against. They're physical now. In the secondary, you can beat them with deep shots, but they're ball hawks on that side of the football. They take advantage of opportunities. We saw that against the Rams. We saw that against Tampa Bay. Speaking of which, if you don't have Deebo Samuel, it makes things that much harder. Here's Shanahan on the status of Deebo Samuel.
It wasn't broken, so that was a real good sign, but still hurting too much for us to really have an idea how it's going to heal up this week. So we just got to be patient, see how he feels on Wednesday, and based off if it's improving, it'll give us a better idea whether he has a chance for the game or not.
Here's Shanahan on the timeline of Deebo's recovery.
Yeah, I mean, if we know he's not available, which hopefully we would know that by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or at least in those 3 days, then it makes it easier, at least from a game plan standpoint. You don't have to do much. But if there's any chance, which I think we'll have a better idea by Wednesday, obviously there'll be things in there for him.
Stephen A. Smith had a rant yesterday saying the Niners cannot beat the Lions without Deebo Samuel. I think the Niners could beat the Lions without Deebo Samuel. Now, will it be a lot harder? Absolutely.
I mean, their record with Deebo in the lineup versus when he's not. Now, that goes over multiple quarterbacks.
Right.
Over multiple seasons.
This season. 0-3.
But it also coincided with Trent's absence.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Look, I just think they're a different team without Deebo Samuel. I underrated his value. I'm not going to underrate it again. Clearly, the quarterback loves him. Clearly, the rest of the players need him for spacing and just making plays. Deebo has to play. If Deebo doesn't play, can they win? Of course they can. But boy, it makes it a hell of a lot harder. A hell of a lot harder.
Yeah, got to have Deebo.
I'll tell you this, whether Deebo plays or not, I'm just not pretending like I know, I am not touching the 6.5, 6.9er spread. Like, I would take Detroit on the spread.
I like the Niners this week. As much as we're talking about the Green Bay game, sometimes the divisional round game is the hardest to get to. Now, they also say the NFC title game is the hardest. The title games are harder than the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
And then the Super Bowl comes. The Super Bowl is the hardest. But you know what? The divisional
round, I figured that was going to be a dogfight with the Green Bay Packers, especially when I started walking into the stadium. The hell with the predictions from last week's radio show. That's just radio bravado. I was like, boy, this might be a grimy game. Now, it was a little closer for comfort, and I didn't think the game would play out the way it did. But the Lions, look, man, I'm not afraid of the Lions. I think the Niners have enough talent to beat the Lions, but they do pose some threats, and we haven't seen them. Shanahan, we haven't seen the Lions since 2021.
And I can't take anything away from that.
I can't take it.
Yeah, there's no correlation.
But what I do see with Detroit, the way they built their team, very similar to how the Niners built their team. Physicality, intensity, good character guys, high IQ guys. Yeah. You think about how they built their team from the ground up with the whole model of being grit. They're physical on that offensive line. They built the offensive line first. Remember, they drafted Sewell. A lot of people were saying, man, Penei Sewell, you're going to really take a lineman in the top 5, top 6? Well, they did that. And he is a captain on that football team and one of their emotional leaders. You got the other linemen, Decker and Ragnow. Those guys are really, really good. Then, of course, you got the running backs. You got the wide receivers. The way they built that Detroit team, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, very similar to the way Shanahan and Lynch built their team out here in San Francisco. Basically based on the same principles.
I mean, if you don't have Deebo, I might take their entire weaponry over ours.
Wow.
I mean, that's how good St. Brown is. I mean, Reynolds is solid. Like they've got play. Laporta is. If you watch Laporta, now he's got a hurt knee, so he's not.
Laporta's legit.
He might be your number one take in fantasy for tight ends next year.
Yep.
Like he's sick. And they made one of the great trades of all time, trading down from 6, getting Gibbs at 12. You can't take a running back in the first round. Yeah, you can when he looks like Alvin Kamara. And then they took Laporta in the second round.
Right.
That was a grand slam.
Grand slam.
And if you think about how you allocate money to tight ends and running backs, like those are great picks, great value financially for that team.
Jahmyr Gibbs, they got roasted for taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 overall and for trading DeAndre Swift. Now the Eagles just fell apart. I thought they fell apart. That Eagles offensive line, Baldy told us they wanted to run the ball. They didn't want to for whatever reason. But boy, this running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, is a problem. Here's Shanahan's first thoughts, or his thoughts on the Lions at first glance.
Really good team. You can see why they're here. Their defense runs around, hits, plays with a lot of energy, got a number of players over there, and then their offense is as good as it gets. They got a great O-line, great quarterback, 2 great running backs, great tight end, and a bunch of good wideouts who play the right way and a hell of a scheme. So pretty obvious to see why they've been so good this year.